Hello, everybody. It's Molly, and welcome back to Motivational Monday. I hope you all had a good week. And if you did not, I hope you learned some valuable lessons from it. And that is what we are going to talk about today. Recognizing when we may handle a situation that we wish we would have done better. And I'm talking about this from experience today, everybody. So had a little incident this weekend that in the moment I got wrapped up into the chaos of it and kind of got myself sucked into it. We all do it. We're all guilty of it, I believe. If you're not, please let me know your trick, because, we're all human. And no matter how much we try to maintain our level of peace and consistency, I guess it's the word I'm looking for, like as we start working on our healing, we try not to go down the rabbit hole, right? Who's with me? Raise your hands now. We try not to go down the rabbit hole. We try to do our best to recognize a situation where we could get sucked in, or we try not to get sucked into the situation. And many times we're good at it. And then sometimes the universe just comes along and goes, well, let me make that look a little bit bigger and let me see how you might handle that. Sometimes because we're human, we have our shortcomings and we get sucked in. Now, it's okay. It's okay if you got sucked in. It's okay if you get sucked in. Here's the trick, though. You have to be willing to, and in a headspace, that once you start feeling yourself get sucked in, to be able to recognize it and try to get yourself out of it. And how do we do that? Well, you have to look for the patterns. If you're in a relationship with someone, and I don't mean like, it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship it could be a friend, it could be a family member, it could be any kind of relationship you have with someone. If you know how they are as a person, and you know that sometimes things can happen and they get triggered, just like you might get triggered. I know for me, having anxiety, there are certain things that I know trigger me. And sometimes there are people in my life where if they get triggered by something, I get caught up in their trigger. But here's what's important, and here's what is really essential to recognize. If you catch yourself, or can you catch yourself getting caught up in that trigger, what can you do to make that better? Well, first and foremost, if you start to catch yourself going down the rabbit hole, this is really step one or number one. You want to try to be able to catch yourself getting caught up in the rabbit hole, right? Because if you don't make it down to the bottom, then you don't need to try to figure out how to get yourself back up again. It's a lot easier to get yourself back up again if you are still holding on to the ledge. So it's important to really start paying attention and being aware of things that trigger you and things that people do and say that can trigger you to start to go back down the rabbit hole again. If you can start to catch yourself early on in the process, it's a lot easier to get yourself back out again. So say, for instance, you are hanging out with somebody and they start to pick a fight with you because they are frustrated themselves, and it's so much easier to be frustrated when you have someone going along for the ride, right? Does this sound like a scenario you might know and understand? If not, I am glad that you haven't experienced this. But for all of you out there listening that knows what it's like to have a great day or be having a good day and you get around people who are miserable and unhappy, 9 times out of 10, even maybe more than 9 times out of 10, those people don't want to see you happy because they're not happy. So they're going to do something, or they're going to behave in a way or react in a way that is going to try to get you out of your happy mode and down into a feeling of sadness or unhappiness or frustration or anger, or whatever those people are feeling. Okay? So you have to be able to recognize the trigger. And you have to be able to recognize if you're starting to absorb any of that thoughts, feelings, or energy of that other person. So where are my empaths out there? You may or may not know that you're an empath. And if you do know you're an empath, you know what I'm talking about. It can be really easy to go into a room and suddenly you feel a completely different feeling than what you felt before you went into that room. And then you have to recognize, is this my feelings? Like, why did my feelings change? Or is this somebody else's feelings, or a combination of other people's feelings that I'm tapping into right now that aren't mine? You have to be able to separate yourself from that, so that you can see your perspective from a rational state of mind. If you start going into this irrational thinking, there's no way to be able to think clearly or handle a situation in a healthy way if you're going down the rabbit hole. So here's a couple things that you can do. If you find yourself in a scenario where you start to get sucked in to someone else's circus and you can see it happening, stop. Take a minute, close your eyes, breathe. Okay? One thing you can do is you can imagine this bubble, this really beautiful gold-ish bubble. You can put yourself in it, and anything that's coming at you is going to bounce off of this bubble. This is one thing that you can do. Another thing that you can do is start to change your thinking. So if you start to go down that rabbit hole and you're starting to think these like nitpicky, negative, whatever, or the feelings are coming up, again, breathing is a great, simple way to just start to recenter yourself. You have to start replacing those thoughts with something positive. All right? Even if you have to go into your head, and this might sound crazy, but even if you have to go into your head and go, stop. Just stop. These thoughts are not mine. I'm not going to think about this anymore. I'm not going to think like this anymore. And then start thinking about the positive things, the good things, the things that you love. Now, back to the beginning of this conversation, I was talking about how you can get sucked into somebody else's thought process and start to go down that rabbit hole, right? So in that moment, when you start to go down that rabbit hole, it can be really easy to start thinking of that person as just like terrible, right? Like, this person is terrible. I don't want to deal with them anymore. I don't want to think about it anymore. Why am I even dealing with this person anymore? It like starts to culminate this like head full of really negative thinking about this person. But there's a reason why you're either with this person, you're hanging out with this person, you're friends with this person's a family. Like, there are things that you like about that person. There might be things you even love about that person. Now's the time to start to bring your head back in to the reality of, why do you like this person? Why are you even hanging out with this person? And start thinking about, why is this person behaving, reacting, responding, feeling the way that they are? All right? We're all human. We all have bad days. We're all going through stuff. We all have triggers. If we can see and humanize the person we're frustrated with, then we can start to have some empathy for the situation. So instead of being angry at them because they're sad or they're anxiety ridden or they're having a bad day, we can start to see the human side of them and not take responsibility for why they are behaving that way. This is really important. So I'm going to keep this short and sweet. This week, what I want you to really do is start paying attention to those relationships that you're in, that you get triggered. And as you get triggered, try to go into a deeper, more positive headspace. Try to recognize why that person feels that way. Try to recognize the fact that you don't have to get sucked into that. You don't have to go down the rabbit hole. And if you do, start to pull yourself out quickly so that you are not sucked into that in as negative a way as you could be. Okay? And if you want to share any of your experiences or what you find that helps for you, I would love to hear about it. Please reach out and let me know. All right, have a beautiful week, and may you have peace and calm and love and support every day, always. Love and light to you. Bye.